Unless you've been living under a slurtle mound, we all know that the beta for the WX-78 and Wurt Reworks is out now. That said, I wouldn't be surprised if you have no clue about not just one rather small hotfix released the very same day of the update, but also a much larger, way more recent, and definitely noteworthy list of changes dropped late last night. So from better Merm Kings to a more versatile Jimmy, let's beat boop and glorp. And we will go in order of the changes here just to make things easier. Just like how Clay made getting the chorus box circuit simpler now by allowing for Pearl to be scanned instead of just the Crab King. Now it's a heck of a lot faster to find this Krabby Crab at the end of the day, so we will definitely take it. But illumination circuits are still ones I can take or leave. That said, not only do they now cost 4 charge slots instead of 5, they will also provide a little bit more light moving forward. Personally, I still consider them one of the most ignorable upgrades out there, but at least they're not that bad anymore. And to wrap up hotfix number 1 already comes the ability to charge via Winona's generator. Now we've already talked about this in a previous video, but in case you didn't see that one, Winona's generators will allow for 17 charges at full fuel capacity, which makes them one of, if not the best option for quick charging out there, but do note how each charge will be draining your sanities by 10 every time. Oh, but now's the time for the good stuff in hotfix number 2. Like how WX-78 now drops 100% of the gears he eats upon death, up to 40 gears total. That is, he did up until a few hours ago. They are now back to dropping 33 to 50% of gears eaten, so sorry if you kinda sorta missed out on the admittedly OP fun that this was before it got reverted. So to continue then, Jimmy is now able to scan crawling nightmares and nightmare beaks down in the caves and or ruins, as yes, in case you didn't know, they are actually separate nightmare creatures. But don't ignore the fact that it can also get the job done at sea with terror claws. So in short, pretty much all nightmare creatures minus Wavy Jones can be scanned, even if you aren't fully insane. But speaking of new scannables out there, Jimmy can now collect data on blue hounds that will lead to the refrigerant circuits. It makes sense, and is potentially way faster than having to wait for deer clouds come winter, so there's that too. But the refrigerant circuit itself has also gotten a change applied recently that makes it to where WX will be 100% immune to overheating, even with but one circuit socketed. Now this was my main gripe, even if we could essentially cool thermals indefinitely to help mitigate things, but now the circuit might just be one of the better ones out there. Moving on to the exact opposite circuit in the thermal plugin though, and while the circuit itself hasn't changed, we can now scan firehounds to get it. Before, we had to face down the dragonfly as our only option. With this, like the blue hounds, things got a little easier. And finally, at least for WX-78's rework here, the optoelectronic circuit continues to outshine moggles in every way, as it not only now knows to shut off come day, it will now remain off come dusk as well. So smart optics indeed. If we're talking the best circuits out there, you're looking at it. But let us wrap up the day with Wurt's rework here, which is simply getting better and better. For one thing, the Milkmaid hat will now provide a positive 1.33 sanity per minute gain for Wurt instead of its usual 1.33 sanity drain for all the others, and if you factor in that the thing still regenerates health over time, it just got a major buff if it's atop Wurt's noggin. Wurt's family continues to get better as well, because loyal Merms will now refuse to eat food and food loot on the ground, which might not sound like much, but if you've played Wurt, this is a huge quality of life update to these guys, as they're usually lightning fast when it comes to munching stuff found on the ground. The Merm King's loot table has changed from dropping 3 fish, 2 kelp, and 1 frog leg to 1 fish, 4 kelp, and 1 frog leg for whatever reason, but I've been thinking maybe folk were farming fish via Merm Kings, which now that I say it, makes total sense, but I gotta say, I've never even considered that after all these years. But Merm Kings have also received a much needed adjusted hunger drain, and here's an example of it in play, with the original drain dropping dropping his hunger from 50 to 24 in but 4 minutes, aka half a day. And here is the new drain dropping that very same 50 hunger to but 37 in that same time period. Now, this is an absolutely massive change to Wurt overall, and I welcome it with very open arms. However, might I suggest that the bonuses granted via Merm Kings be extended to the caves as well? You do that, Clay. This Wurt rework will be one of the best we've ever seen. But lastly, note that Merm Kings will now gift more loot depending on whether or not the ocean fish that you offer him is heavy versus light. And it does not matter what type of ocean fish it is. The first two guppies here, considered to be some of the smallest fish in the game, were light versions of themselves, while the last two were the heavier ones of these little guys, and I think you can definitely see the difference between the loot drops. Now, this is kind of interesting as it leads to a choice of whether just firing through offerings to get as much loot as possible in the quickest amount of time, or going for heavier stuff for clearly better loot moving forward. Heck, it might even make me use the pocket scale more than I ever have in my entire flippin' life. But there you have it, everyone. Just a quick rundown on Hotfix number 1 and Hotfix number 2 for both the WX-78 and Wurt Rework updates. It's been very weird to have two reworks going on at once, but some other notes to take away still would be how Jimmy won't block building actions now, how he won't activate spiders via sticky webbings, which is kind of nice, and how Merm guards will also be able to be recruited even if they are not the ones being fed, if you know what I mean. It's all been good stuff, with more to come, I'm sure. And if it does, I'll be here. Thanks for watching, folks. Well wishes to all. Defend Jimmy at all costs, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.